कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भवतीत ध्यान कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। अनुभव कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। 20 मिनट बस ध्यान कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। सुबह शाम बस ध्यान कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। आसन प्राणायाम कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। अनुभव कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भवतीत ध्यान कर लो। सबकी आत्मा शांति का सबकी आत्मा आनंद का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा शांति का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा ज्ञान का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा ज्ञान का सागर है। सबकी आत्मा शक्ति का सागर है। सागर है। सागर है। कर लो अनुभव कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। बस ध्यान कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। सुबह शाम बस ध्यान कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। आसन प्राणायाम कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भवतीत ध्यान कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। अनुभव कर लो जीवन पूर्ण बनेगा। भवतीत ध्यान कर लो।
जय गुरुदेव।
Am I audible, Madhavi?
जय गुरुदेव हेमा जी।
Hello, Madhavi, am I audible?
Yes, Sunita, you're audible.
I'm unable to hear you, Madhavi.
I can hear Madhavi.
Sunita, am I audible now?
Okay, I'll try.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jai Gurudev Hema ji.
Jai Gurudev Madhavi, I can hear you.
Yes.
Let us begin.
Yes. Jai Gurudev, we welcome all the participants for the Gita Satsang. We will be starting with Sahana Bhavatu. Can we have the Vedic Pandits reciting Sahana Bhavatu, followed by the Begin Mala, verses 27 and 28. Thank you.
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीरं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmat pariharyete natvam socitumarhasi avyktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyaktanidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. Om.
Thank you very much. Today we will be learning verses 29 to 34. Before we start reciting the verses and learn about them, along with the scientific reasoning, we will have a quick recap of verses that we have learned in the last session. As Hemaji is unable to speak, I hope I will be able to do the justice for that, trying to recap what we have learned in the last week. So last week, we were learning verses 23 to 28. And from in the second chapter, when we inspect, from the verse number 11, we have been learning about the nature of the Atma. So the same nature of Atma, we continue to learn in verses 23 to 28. Now, recapping whatever we have learned, the self remains ever untouched by anything in this relative field, not only by weapons, but even by the Panchamahabhutas. The Panchamahabhutas are the 5 elements which are air, water, fire, ether, and earth. Basically, when we look at it, the Jiva is a combination of the 3 factors which are body, mind, and the Atma. One is subtler than the others. The 5 elements can affect the body only because the body is composed of these 5 elements. Just as we see that, a sword can cut through a plant or a human being or anything that is there, but it cannot cut through air or anything else. So the finer and finer the objects are, they are untouched or affected by these gross things. And Atma is the subtlest of all these things. Since it is the subtlest of all these things, nothing can touch the Atma or affect it in any way. He is eternal means always, he is there, he is all pervading. That means he is there everywhere, stable, immovable, and ever the same. Here, Sri Krishna Bhagavan is giving Arjuna the intellectual conception of reality, that Arjuna is not just a body. Behind what we see on the surface, there lies the eternal being, meaning the Paramatma. Arjuna is that same consciousness as Paramatma. Here we can relate it with one of the beautiful Mahavakyas, which states it is Tattvam Asi. And everything in the universe also is that same consciousness as that Paramatma. Sarvam Khaluvidam Brahma. First, Sri Krishna Bhagavan explains the permanent, eternal nature, that is the Nitya aspect of life, from the point of view of indestructibility, which is meaning something that cannot be destroyed. Then he takes a different approach and says that even if Arjuna thinks of him as constantly taking birth and constantly dying, even then he should not grieve like this, because death is inevitable for the born and the dead are born again. Therefore, over the inevitable, one should not grieve. So from whatever we have been trying to learn about the nature of the Atma, if we try to summarize all our discussions, it says that Atma is eternal. All living beings, the so-called relations and friends, are all different manifestations of the same indestructible Atma. And so Arjuna should not grieve for them. Next, Atma is unchanging. And just as, one wears and throws away the soiled clothes, similarly, the Atma throws away the worn out bodies. Even if it is accepted for the sake of an argument that Atma itself is born and dies again and again, Arjuna should not grieve for the dead because they take birth again. These bodies did not exist before birth, and so they do not exist after death. They appear in between for a brief interval of time only. Therefore, they are unreal and illusionary. When it is these bodies, when they are illusionary, then why do we grieve for them? So this was a small summarization of what we have learned in the last week. So we will move ahead with the Sanskrita recitation of verse number 29. Can we have the display? We will start with verse number 29. Jai Gurudev. Ascharyavat paschati kaschidенам. Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyaha. Ascharyavat chainamanyah shrunoti. Shrutvapyenam veda na chaiva kaschit. Ascharyavat paschati kaschidенам. Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyaha. Ascharyavat chainamanyah shrunoti. Shrutvapyenam veda na chaiva kaschit. One sees him as a wonder, another likewise speaks of him as a wonder, and as a wonder another hears of him. Yet even on seeing, speaking, and hearing, some do not understand him.
Jai Gurudev, because the self is unmanifested nature, and because man's life is always in the field of the manifested, it is not to be wondered at if some people hear about it with great surprise and others are not able to understand it at all. The purpose of this verse is simply to give a picture of a dissimilar nature of the ephemeral and eternal aspects of life. Although Arjuna is obviously unfamiliar with eternal reality, it is not the Sri Krishna Bhagwan's aim to stress the difficulty of understanding. It is a wonder to some because although omnipresent, it is found as the individual self, and although eternal, it is found dying and being born. That is why it is difficult to comprehend its full nature by mere intellectual process. It needs a direct experience for the abstract reality to be properly understood. There is yet another implication. Up to this verse, Shri Krishna Bhagavan has been trying in different ways to make Arjuna understand that he should not grieve. But he is not free from grief, and therefore, as an additional step in the task of enlightening him, Shri Krishna Bhagavan points out that his presence to what he has heard is a feeling of strangeness. In order to encourage him, Shri Krishna Bhagavan seems to be saying that this feeling of strangeness does not matter, for it is natural with regard to knowledge of eternal life. Many marvel at it and find it a wonder. One can take a different point of view and conclude that Sri Krishna Bhagavan means to show that reality is difficult to attain, for many having heard of it and spoken about it are not able to understand it. Nevertheless, it is wiser to hold that the purpose of the verse is not to convince Arjuna of the difficulty of attainment, but to give him hope that although many find it difficult, it is going to prove easy for him. The verse speaks of eternal reality, which is strange to many in many different ways, because everyone looks at it from his own level of consciousness. For this reason, many who seek it find it impossible to attain on the level of senses and the intellect, since these are concerned only with the temporary phenomenal phases of life. The next verse brings to an end the intellectual description of the two aspects of life, the ever-changing and the never-changing. Madhvi, do you want me to do the scientific research now or after explanation?
Jai Gurudev, Anitaji, we will do the scientific research after the explanation.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Anitaji. So the purpose of this shloka is to tell Arjuna how the absolute aspect of life is different from the ever-changing relative life. In the last several shlokas, we have seen that the absolute aspect of life is transcendental and unmanifested. What does that mean? It means that we cannot see it because it is beyond senses, and some people are very surprised when they hear about it. But just because we cannot see it and some are very surprised, it does not mean that it is difficult to understand. It is a wonder to some because on one hand, we are saying that it is present everywhere. On the other hand, we are saying that we find it in the inner self. And again, on one hand, we are saying that it is eternal, which means Shashwat. It is always there. On the other hand, we find that it is found dying and reborn. That is why it is difficult to understand just by intellectual understanding. But when we have a direct experience of this abstract ultimate reality of life, which we call it as God, Paramatma, then we understand it properly. The spiritual science does not end with mere theory. It is a practical experience. Just like somebody trying to describe the sweetness of the mango fruit, no matter whatever be the adjectives we try to use, whatever metaphors we try to give in comparison, trying to explain the profound taste of the fruit Still, unless and until one consumes or one eats the mango themselves, they do not understand how the mango fruit tastes. Similarly, it is only by experience does a man know how is the self, what is the self. If he wants to understand about the self, he needs to experience that. And the second point here is that Arjuna is in grief. He is sad. And so it seems strange that there is such an entity as Ananda of Sat, Chit, Ananda. And it is only natural for him to feel that way. Someone is sad and you are saying life is bliss. Yet another point is that Sri Krishna Bhagavan is saying that even though it is difficult to understand for some people, it is going to be easy for him to attain this reality. And the most important reason why it is difficult to understand is because everyone understands this from their own level of consciousness. And so many find it difficult to find God on the level of senses and intellect because they are connected only with the temporary, superficial phase of life. Jai Gurudev.
The scientific research about this chapter, about this verse, is verified by increased intelligence through Maharishi Transcendental Meditation, because it has been found that students who learn Transcendental Meditation program showed a significant increase in intelligence test scores in contrast to other students after 3 months. Now, this verse very clearly makes us understand that understanding has become a part now, even if one sees as a wonder, or one speaks of it as a wonder, or if one hears of it as he hears it. So, even on the seeing, speaking, and hearing level, everybody understands differently. So one thing is clear, that we understand. And when we understand, then it relates to increased intelligence growth rate. Thank you, Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Does anyone have any questions, or shall we move ahead with the next verse? If anyone would like to add on some points. Okay, thank you. So we move on with the next verse. Dehi nityamavadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani na tvam shocitumarhasi. Dehi nityamavadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani na tvam shocitumarhasi. He who dwells in the body of everyone is eternal and invulnerable. O Bharata, therefore, you should not grieve for any creature whatsoever. Jai Gurudev.
This is the conclusion of all that has been said by Sri Krishna Bhagwan from the 11th verse onwards. Every creature is on the path to perfection. Through births and deaths of bodies, everyone is progressing towards fulfillment. No one should grieve over the death of another. Arjuna, having acquired understanding of the permanent nature of the dweller in the body and the impermanence of the body, should respond to the call of duty, for that alone will help his own evolution and that of others. The following verse begins the argument on the level of duty. This is to deepen the understanding of life after the absolute and the relative aspects of existence have been made clear. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Anita ji. So this is the conclusion of what we have been studying so far. As mentioned earlier in the beginning, from verse 11 to verse 30, we have been trying to learn about the nature of the Atma, that everyone is eternal, Shashwata. The body may belong to any man or plant or anything in the universe. The indwelling Atma is the same everywhere. And on the path of progression through birth and death, one is progressing towards fulfillment. Arjuna should not grieve for the death of another and should respond to the call of his duty. So now in the next verse, Sri Krishna Bhagavan reminds Arjuna about his duty. Jai Gurudev. Can we have the scientific research, Anita ji?
Yes. This verse 30 is verified by scientific research through Maharishi Transcendental Meditation for more internal locus of control. Individual practicing Maharishi Transcendental Meditation technique demonstrated a more internal locus of control than non-meditating controlled subjects. The verse, therefore, you should not grieve for any creature whatsoever, refers to correlations found in subjects practicing Maharishi Transcendental Meditation and TM Siddhi program between the high EEG coherence and greater intelligence, superior cognitive performance, and greater emotional stability, decrease hidden mental turbulence. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Anita ji. Do we have any questions? Thank you. So we move on to the next verse. Can we have the display of verse number 31, please? Swadharmamapi chaveksha na vikampitumarhasi dharmyadhiyuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Swadharmamapi chaveksha na vikampitumarhasi धर्म्याद्युत्थात् श्रेयोऽन्यत् क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते. Even if you consider your own dharma, you should not waver, for there is nothing better for a kshatriya than a battle in accord with dharma. Jai Gurudev.
The event of war is a natural phenomenon. It is a process of restoring the balance between the negative and the positive forces of nature. To rise to the call of a war to establish righteousness is to respond to the cosmic purpose, the will of God. To live and die to maintain law and order in society, thereby remaining a faithful instrument in the hand of God, is the privilege of a man born in a Kshatriya family. The Lord's purpose is to convince Arjuna from the point of view of his duty, and only worthwhile course is to shake off his reluctance to find and face up to the action for which he is born. Having explained to him in the previous verse from the viewpoint of life's eternal existence, he need not grieve either for the living or for the dead. He wants to bring home to Arjuna that to him, born a Kshatriya, fighting is natural. It is his normal duty in life to do battle in accord with Dharma and establish righteousness for the good of the world is the most glorious and justifiable way of fulfilling the life of a Kshatriya who is born to protect Dharma at any cost. Dharma maintains the stream of evolution in life. The Kshatriya who does not accept a just fight wavers from this natural stream of evolution. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Anitaji. So, beginning this verse, the teaching takes another turn in explaining the two aspects of life and begins the argument on the level of duty. We have discussed about dharma quite extensively, that dharma maintains the stream of evolution in life. And so, if you don't follow your dharma, it is not evolutionary. We understand from this verse how much Bhagwan Sri Krishna loves the performance of one's own dharma. One should not waver in discharging his duty. So long as the bodies last, every being has to do some work or the other. This is the inescapable law of nature. More so, performing one's dharma or duty purifies the mind and leads to liberation, which is the moksha. So, what does that mean for Arjuna? Swadharma. Being a Kshatriya, Arjuna is to live and die to maintain law and order. He is an instrument in the hands of God. He should consider it as a privilege, and he should not grieve for the living or the dead because of life's eternal, permanent existence. Jai Gurudev. Can we have the scientific
research of this verse is verified by decrease recidivism through transcendental meditation. It has been found that those who learn transcendental meditation program while in prison showed significantly decreased recidivism over a 5-year period after release, in comparison to matched controls, indicating a greater ability to spontaneously act in accordance with Dharma. Even if you consider your own Dharma, you should not waver. This relates to decreased recidivism, improved behavior, decreased prison disciplinary rule infractions, fewer parole violations, decreased use of drugs and alcohol, greater sense of social responsibility, and decreased social introversion. Thank you, Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev, do we have any questions at this point? Thank you. So we move on with the next verse. For verses 32, 33, and 34, the English commentary by Maharishi Ji will be read by Sunita. So we will have the Samskrita recitation now. Yadrichaya chopapannam Swargadvaramapavritam Sukhinah kshatriyah partha Labhante yuddhamidrisham Yadrichaya chopapannam Swargadvaramapavritam Sukhinah kshatriyah partha Labhante yuddhamidrisham. Happy are the Kshatriyas, O Partha, who find unsought such a battle, an open door to heaven. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Open door to heaven. By following his dharma, a Kshatriya serves to uphold law and order in society and maintains the stream of his own evolution. If he dies while fighting in this cause, he is a hero of cosmic life and gains the highest happiness in heaven. This verse makes a general statement proclaiming the good fortune of a Kshatriya who gains an opportunity for such a battle. At the same time, by calling him Partha, the son of Pritha, Sri Krishna Bhagavan reminds Arjuna that he is a Kshatriya. When a Kshatriya has a chance of battle, he feels happy because he gains whether he wins or loses. Victorious, he achieves glory on earth. Dying in battle, he gains heaven. What will happen if Arjuna does not participate in the battle? Jai Gurudev.
Bhuvnesh Ji, can we have your explanation and scientific research for this verse?
Actually, first I will talk about it and then I will do the scientific research.
Thank you.
And in case there is some question, then we can discuss. Actually, in Indian tradition, we have the four, we can say castes, we can say Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And for every caste, there is a dharma. Like dharma for a Brahmin is different, dharma for Kshatriya is different. And here, it is very easy for one to know that my dharma is this, and so I should act accordingly, and it will be evolutionary for myself. So here, because Arjun is Kshatriya, and then one another point, important point is that this war was unsought. You know, every Kshatriya is not going to have battle. Every Kshatriya will not have a chance to go for a battle, and especially that battle which is being fought to save the dharma. So this is a very special occasion for a Kshatriya, and then Bhagwan Krishna wants Arjun to do his duty and according to his dharma. And if he, we can say, dies, we should not say actually die word, we say liberated if he is liberated, because this is another beauty of the technology of consciousness in India, especially the Vedic war. Vedic war is such that when Lord Bhagwan Ram was fighting with Raman, or Bhagwan Krishna is on the battlefield, what happens is that the person is liberated instantaneously. Anyone who dies, because there is a principle which Maharishi has mentioned, that what you see, you become. So when they are looking for the opposite party, so they become enlightened. So that is another, and it is a great opportunity for a Kshatriya, because if he wins, then he is going to have heaven here on the earth. And otherwise, if he dies or liberates, then he is going to have enlightenment, I will say. He will be like absorbed in the absolute. But also we can say heaven on earth and heaven in heaven itself. So it is both ways. So this is the, we can say the gist of this is that one should always follow the dharma, and only through dharma one is going to have the evolution. So, and when we talk of scientific research, it says that again this scientific research is related to open to heaven, because Bhagwan Krishna is telling that after the heaven is open for Arjun, whether on earth or on in the heaven. So it shows that improved quality of life through TM and TM Siddhi yogic flying. The quality of life in Israel improved significantly as measured by an index comprising decreased crime, increased Tel Aviv Stock Exchange Index, and improved national mood, while a large group was participating in Transcendental Meditation and TM Siddhi program in Jerusalem. Maharishi was having this experiment, I know, with the Arab-Israel war in those days. He was sending the groups of flyers, and then they experienced that in spite of that fighting going on, they were having, we can say, better mood, and even the effect of their meditation and TM Siddhi flying was on the society as well. So increased harmony in international affairs, USA, USSR, worldwide, more positive progressive statements and actions of heads of state, and greater support from their policies and leadership. So if the dharma is being followed actually by practicing TM and TM Siddhi program, you are more aligning yourself with the dharma, and thereby the whole collective consciousness also becomes positive for the dharma. And so that is why it reflects in the international matters as well. So this is the scientific research. Yes. In case there is any question, then we can discuss. Yes.
As a spiritual seeker or somebody who is trying to trend this path and trying to learn knowledge, by the regular practice of TM, can we say that, just as Arjuna is waging this righteous war, we also are waging a war with our internal enemies, like what we have, the Arishad Vargas, whatever we say, so that our mind is slowly getting purified, and we reach that state where we are just experiencing silence and stillness, where the bliss that we experience is not expressible in words, but only as an experience.
Yes, actually, every time there is one, as one is living in life and it is fighting if one is not acting in accordance with the laws of, according to one's dharma. It is a fighting. But then when we are, once we are aligned with our own dharma, actually we say it swadharma, because sometimes even a kshatriya may be doing different kind of activity. So basically then it comes to swadharma. Later we will study swadharmam nidhinam shyam. So how we know? Because basically you are Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra, but then you also have to specifically follow your own swadharma, get established in yourself, and then act according to your own.
So basically, our intellect should be operating in whichever situation I am, not looking at the broader path. Right now, if I am in this situation, what is my dharma that I have to perform? This
Yeah,
take a moment and perform the dharma there.
the intellect also has to be gradually purified.
Yes.
In the till one is not enlightened, in the intellect takes both the sides and difficult to decide. But as gradually the intellect is also purified with the practice, then the decision will be right. The mind will go right, because in Ramcharitmanas it says na that without even thinking what is right or wrong, my mind is always thinking right. So intellect comes later. One may say that yes, I was right in that decision, but then the impulse itself, the natural impulse, is not distorted, and naturally it is right.
Thank you, Maharishi. Do we have any other questions here? We move on to the next verse. अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यम् संग्रामं न करिष्यसि ततः स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यम् संग्रामं न करिष्यसि ततः स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि.
Hey!
If you do not engage in this battle, which is in accord with dharma, then casting away your own dharma and good fame, you will incur sin. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Casting away your own dharma means falling out of the path of evolution, and that in itself is a positive sin. Sin is that through which a man strays from the path of evolution, it results in suffering. Having reminded Arjuna of his great good fortune in being given this opportunity for battle, Lord Sri Krishna Bhagavan immediately impresses upon him the danger of not accepting it. To abstain from fighting and so neglect his dharma would bring loss of fame and would plainly be sinful. Dharma and fame are placed together in this verse. The connection between them is clarified in the commentary on the following verse. In the 31st verse, Lord Sri Krishna Bhagavan began the argument on the basis of duty. Having enlightened Arjuna about his duty, his dharma, which maintains the natural stream of evolution, he now wants to make clear also the nature of duty from the level of social consideration. It may be mentioned that the moral code of conduct in any society has dharma at its basis. Whether or not the people in that society are aware of the inner workings of nature, guided by the invincible force of dharma. The fundamentals of social behavior in every society on earth are based on this principle which governs the laws of evolution. Therefore, Lord Shri Krishna Bhagavan wants to analyze the nature of duty in the light of its influence on society. How others think of one's life, how others are affected by one's actions, and how others talk about one are here the main concern. The word fame covers all these points. The following 3 verses are devoted to this consideration, which will complete the wisdom of Sankhya. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. So in this verse also, Bhagwan Krishna is mentioning about the duty, and if one Arjun is not acting in accordance to his dharma, then he is going to make sin. And making sin means actually creating stress. When you are going along with the nature, like a stream is flowing, and now if you want to go against the stream, then life becomes difficult. It is difficult to go against the stream. So similarly, if we are acting naturally with our dharma, then it is evolutionary and it is easy. Otherwise, it will cause struggle, stress, and suffering. So that is the condition. And then Arjun, Bhagwan Krishna is mentioning about the fame also. One is doing the sin, so not good for the individual, and not is good for the society as well. Because the society, actually Maharishi has in many tapes mentioned that every place on the earth having different, we can say, geographical conditions, then naturally the dharma or the culture is different. And if we are following our culture, depending what the culture, our culture is, then we have more evolutionary life. So if someone is violating the culture of the place, then it is also causing stress not only for himself, but also for the society. So that is why both things have been included. And these 3 verses actually, they all talk of basically following the dharma. So that is the gist of it. Because one's action should actually, every individual, if he is stressed, he is radiating the stress in the society also. So that way also following natural dharma is good for the individual and also good for the society. And when we talk of scientific research, it says the main portion of scientific research result related to this is that you will incur sin. So it says that decreased return into prison of maximum security inmates. A doctoral dissertation at Harvard University found that inmates in maximum security prison who learned transcendental meditation program showed significantly decreased return to prison after at least 36 months in comparison to random samples of participants. 4 other prison rehabilitation programs controlling for time release from prison. It shows actually what happens is that once one is following one's dharma, then one is aligned with the society also, and one has not to come back to the prison. Because what generally is found, that a person who is in prison, even though when he goes out, he still makes mistake and then he comes back. But here it was found that if the practitioners are practicing transcendental meditation, then they are not returning. Almost all are not returning. That shows that now they are aligning not only with their own dharma, but also this dharma of the society. So correlation between high EEG, electroencephalograph, coherence, and greater moral maturity. This moral maturity is also very important actually. because then they know how to behave in society. Greater intelligence, superior academic performance, and lower neuroticism, increased directedness, once we can say better focus and better living in the society. So this is this. In case we have some questions, we can discuss. There is nothing much actually to be discussed, but anyway, yes.
Any questions, participants? Thank you. We move on to the 34th verse. Akirtim chapi bhutani kathayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtihi maranadatirichyate. Akirtim chapi bhutani kathayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtihi maranadatirichyate. Moreover, men will ever tell of your disgrace, and to a man of honor, ill fame is worse than death. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Those who are esteemed are they who, living for themselves, live for others and die for others. Their lives are justified in the degree to which others recognize them. Their happiness in life is in proportion to the goodwill accorded to them. Therefore, if those who have enjoyed goodwill and fame in society lose it, they suffer shame and misery, which is worse than death. Loss of renown for a once famous man is more than death to him. Arjuna was the most famous archer of his time. That is why Sri Krishna Bhagavan makes this telling point about the nature of a famous man. The underlying principle of good fame in society is that when a man constantly does good, he becomes a center of harmonious vibrations which, enjoyed by the people around him, naturally create warmth and love in their hearts. That is why he is described in glowing terms by all. In this way, the good fame of a man is the criterion of his goodness, and ill fame the criterion of his badness. No one who is good could possibly acquire ill fame. It is the vibrations spreading from a man's actions that induce people to speak well of him or otherwise. The Lord particularly wants to bring home this truth to Arjuna. The way to uplift a man is first to remind him of the glorious aspects of his character and so gain a sympathetic response. The second step is to point out at once some delicate feature in the situation. Sri Krishna Bhagavan does this in the next verse by saying that the brave will attribute cowardice to Arjuna. A close study of this verse in relation to preceding and subsequent verses will make the point clear. Sri Krishna Bhagavan lays stress on the importance of fame, not for the sake of fame itself, but to call Arjuna's attention to principle of life. If he behaves in a way that will bring him ill fame, he will become a center of something unrighteous, and this will impair his personal evolution. It is primarily the principle of personal evolution that is the subject of this consideration of life from the point of view of Sankhya.
So,
Jai Gurudev.
continuing, just Jai Gurudev, continuing on the same thought that the doing the duty will bring more fame and evolution, and going against the dharma will cause problems and suffering for the individual and as well as for the society. And as mentioned in the earlier verse also, what happens is that an individual, if he is following one's dharma, he radiates more harmony in society. And then obviously society gets benefited because he is following the dharma. So society also in a way is getting benefited. And that is why they expect also to such a person that he will always do his duty. He will always act in accordance with his dharma. But then in case he is violating, then it causes, we can say, more harm. And Bhagavan Krishna even mentioned that it is, and actually it is, that defamation is more than death. So that way it is very severe. It brings not only a bad impact on the individual, but also on the whole society. So going the expectations, holding the expectation of following the dharma is very important for this. And then Maharishi also has mentioned that he is first, Bhagavan Krishna is uplifting the Arjuna, reminding him of his Kshatriya nature and his duty, and then delicately mentioning that it will be good to follow your dharma. Otherwise, it will not be. Actually, what happens, it is not good for society. On one hand, because of the expectations, but also because he is a great warrior, people have much expectations from him. So it will also be a bad lesson for the society. They will think if such a person can do such thing, then that will become a bad example for the society also. So that way, there is a greater you have the higher position, higher is the responsibility also towards yourself as well as for the society. And when we come to the scientific research, it says ill fame is worse than death. Increased self-regard. Actually, there are many researches connected with this, that the person feels more self-actualization or self-confidence. So here is its self-regard. Young people referred to juvenile court for a legal offense showed a significant increase in self-regard after learning the Transcendental Meditation program. Increased inner directedness, greater independence, and supportiveness. Actually, this great independence of the means we are doing our duty irrespective of what is happening around. So that way, that is a very important quality. Increased emotional stability and maturity, increased self-reliance, increased directedness, less sensitivity to criticism, less tendency to worry about other people's opinions, less need to belong and to be accepted. So we can say that whatever is happening in the society in a wrong way, we can say the person who is practicing transcendental meditation is more connected to his inner self, and thereby is independent of what is going in the surroundings. So that is that we can say that the fame will also come. We will say anyone who is following dharma more and more, then it will be good for himself and for the society. Yes. Any questions if we have?
So basically, they are performing selfless duties in the path of dharma.
Actually, when we say selfless, this is a very special word. When we say when the individual's ego is limited, then it is not selfless. But once we realize our bigger ego, universal ego, then it is one, and we can say that way the self itself is working, but it is universal self. It is good for the individual, for the society, and for the whole universe. Yes. Selfless service is good, but actually the whole Ramcharit Manas they have Tulsidas ji has written, it says Swante Sukhai. It becomes a joy of the person to narrate the glory of the Lord, glory of Bhagwan, you can say. So it is it is a joy to live life. So, and doing good to others. Yes.
Do we have any questions at this juncture?
Actually, there are only few people and all are enlightened, so not many questions, and it is self-explanatory. This is the beauty of Maharishi's commentary, that he has covered all the points, nothing much to say actually. Even we are speaking just to sake of speech, but otherwise everything is very clear. Good. In case we have on Ramrajtv, some more people are there, then they can ask questions. Because there may be many people who are not meditating. For them, it may be something new, and then they can ask questions. Yes. Okay, so it is already going to be the time also. We can go ahead. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Bhuvanesh ji. Can we have the end mala by the Vedic Pandits, verses 35 and 36? Manish ji and Mukesh ji.
Jai Gurudev.
Ji.
35.
35 and 36.
35, 36.
Om भयाद्रणादुपरतं मश्यन्ते त्वां महारथा येषां च त्वं बहुमतो भूत्वा यास्यसि राघवम् अवाच्यवादाश्च बहून् वदिष्यन्ति तवाहिता निन्दस्तव सामर्थ्यं ततो दुःखतरं नु किम्
Jai Gurudev. We will now have a short meditation. Followed by the meditation, we will have the chanting of the second chapter. So we will now just have a short meditation. Sunita, can you display Maharishi ji's image? Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev. Take a minute or so and slowly open your eyes. Jai Gurudev.
जय गुरुदेव दीदी।
मनीष जी, एक इंस्ट्रूमेंट को आप थोड़ा म्यूट कर दीजिए ना।
कर दिए दीदी।
Thank you. So we will now have the chanting of chapter 2, verses 1 to 36 and the last verse.
जी दीदी।
Not able to hear Madhavi.
पार्थाया प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवत् गीते भवे द्वेषिणी। ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुता तन्वन्ति देव्यस्तवै वेदै साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदै गायन्ति यं योगिनो ध्यानावस्थित तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः। संजय उवाच तं तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम् विषेदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः। श्रीभगवानुवाच कुतस्त्वाकशमलमिदं विषमे समुपस्थितम् अनार्यजुष्टमश्वर्ग्यम् अकीर्तिकरमर्जुन क्लैव्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ नेतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप। अर्जुन उवाच कथं भीष्ममहं संख्ये द्रोणं च मधुसूदनः इषुभिः प्रतियोत्स्यामि पूजार्ह वरिसूदन। गुरो न हित्वा हि महानुभावान् श्रेयो भोक्त त्वं वैक्षमपीह लोके हत्वार्थकामास्तु गुरूनिहैव भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुद्रप्रदग्धान् न चैतद्विद्महाकतरन्नो गरीयो यतो वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयुः याने हत्वा न जिजीविषामस्तेव स्थितः प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्र कार्पण्यदोषोपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयः स्यान्निशितं ब्रूहि तन्मे यस्येस्तेऽहं साधिमां त्वां प्रपन्यम् न हि प्रपश्यामि ममानुपद्यात् यच्छोकमुच्छोषणमिन्द्रियाणाम् अवाप्य भूमा वसपत्नमृद्धम् राज्यं शूराणाम् अपि चाधिपत्यम् संजय उवाच एवमुक्त्वा हृषीकेशं गुडाकेशः परं तपः न योत्स्येति गोविन्दं उक्त्वा तूष्णीं बभूवः तमुवाच ऋषीकेशः प्रहसन्निव भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये विषीदन्तमिदं वचः श्रीभगवानुवाच असोच्यानन्वसोचस्त्वं प्रज्ञावादाश्च भाषसे गतासो न गतासूश्च नानुशोचन्ति पण्डिता न त्वेवाहं जातो नासं न त्वं नेमे जनाधिपाः न चैन भविष्यामः सर्वे वयमतः परम् देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिर्धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यते मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदाः आगमापायिनो नित्यास्तास्तितिच्छस्व भारत यं हि न व्यतीयन्ते ते पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभ समदुःख सुखं धीरं सोमृतत्वाय कल्पते नासतो विद्यते भावो नाभावो विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टोऽन्तस्त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः अविनाशी तु तद्विद्धि येन सर्वमिदं ततं विनाशमव्ययस्यास्य न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हति अन्तवन्त इमे देहा नित्योक्ताः शरीरिणः अनाशिनो प्रमेयस्य तस्माद्युध्यस्व भारत य एनं वेत्ति हन्तारं यश्चैनं मन्यते हतम् उभौ तौ नाभिजानीतो नायं हन्ति न हन्यते न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे वेदा विनाशिनं नित्यं येनमजमव्ययम् कथं स पुरुषः पार्थ कं घातयति हन्तिकम् वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णान् यन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि नैनं छन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैन क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः अच्छेद्योऽयमदायोऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतः स्थाणो रचलोऽयं सनातनः अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्त्योऽयम् अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे व्रतम् तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नेमं शोचितुमर्हसि जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युं ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थेन त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवत् वा तति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित् देहे नित्यम् अवज्योऽयं देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि स्वधर्ममपि चावेक्ष्य निविकम्पितुमर्हसि धर्म्याध्ये युद्धात् श्रेयोऽन्यच्च क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते तद्रेच्छया चोपपन्नं स्वर्गाद्वारमपामृतम् सुखिना क्षत्रियाः पार्थ लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम् अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं सङ्ग्रामं न करिष्यसि तथा स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि अकीर्तिं चापि भूतानि कथयिष्यन्ति ते व्ययाम् संभावितस्य चाकीर्तिर्मरणादिरुच्यते भयाद्रणाद् परतं मत्स्यन्ते त्वां महारथाः एषा तस्त्वं बहुमतो भूत्वा यास्यसि लाघवम् अवाच्य वादांश्च बहून् वदिष्यन्ति सभा तवाहिताः निन्दन्तस्तव सामर्थ्यं ततो दुःखतरं किम् ॐ एषा ब्राह्मी स्थितः पार्थ नैनं प्राप्य विमुह्यते स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मानरमाणमृच्छति ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे साङ्ख्ययोगो नामोऽध्यायः श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु। ओम जय गुरुदेव।
Thank you, Mukesh ji and Manish ji. Do we have anybody celebrating their birthday?
Welcome to you.
Do we have any birthdays today? Okay, in that case, I think we are on dot. So we all can come on cameras. Jai Gurudev to all of us. Thank you very much for being a part of this program. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev, ma'am.
Jai Gurudev Bela ji.
Thank you.
जय गुरुदेव दीदी।
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Okay, Sunita, we can end the meet. Maybe you can close the meet. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev Vinod ji.